Okay, here is this is kind of an advanced rendering video. This is a client's ring, and they were wondering how to render this the way that they're used to in their other process. And so I thought it would be good to show how I lit this environment and the scene. And also I thought I would show kind of some behind the scenes functions in Bella. Some people may know them, some may not. And so here we go. So with this project, the longhorn here is going to be orange, just like the Texas logo. And then the metal is yellow gold, and there's antiquing or black enamel in the background, both here behind State and Champions and on the side. And I think before I get too far, I think I'm going to go down to named views, set view, named views, and I a lot of times will roll with that. Right here is named views. If you go here and then go to show panels in 8, you can pick named views to show up here. I usually run with named views, environments, materials, rendering, and properties. Those are the ones that I use the most. And so here we can hit the plus, but if you're in Rhino 7, you can, it's basically the same thing. You just go to named views and then you can save them. And this is Texas Ring 01, I'll just call it. Okay, so there's that saved. So that way I can kind of move around and you can see it's got some texture background behind there. And all you have to do to load that again is come over here and double click it and it will put it back. So that's pretty convenient. One other thing that I noticed, and I don't know if I've shown this in another video, but here's the materials that are in this file, okay? And there's a lot of them that aren't being used. The ones that are being used are indicated by a blue dot in the corner. So I have tungsten carbide applied to the black antiqued background. We have yellow gold. Here's a Bella Quick material that is orange. So if you want to clear the clutter, we're waiting for this to be a button somewhere in the render interface, but there is a command called JB purge unused materials. Okay, and so you can just hit enter and it'll go through and clean out the unused or unapplied materials. Okay, so there you go. These are all diamonds, and I've just loaded the file, and if you want to see what environment is currently set, you can come over to environments and it's just on the default. Okay, so let's see what we get. I have rendering set to 700 by 700, and I'll go ahead and click show safe frame. And looks like we have a good border on each side. This is a just a round ground plane. This came with the file. Okay, so there's different ways to do this, but this is as good as any. You know, it's just a good ground plane. And let's go ahead and I'm going to hit render and hit pause. There's no sense watching that. Okay, here is the finished render. And if you're in 8, you'll notice sometimes this NVIDIA denoiser is checked. I uncheck it. I don't do I don't do denoise here at all. I do denoise over here in our interface. And so I actually have that turned off right now. Let's go ahead and turn it on, and we'll see what we get. And sometimes I render without denoise on, especially if I want to keep detail in the diamonds. Now, what I don't like about this is the diamonds seem kind of lifeless. There's a lot of gray here and then just a lot of light here. So I'm not really digging. They seem kind of cloudy, and it seems like the metal could have some more contrast. This bezel is all the same color, which isn't bad. You know, there's some people that would look at this metal and go, oh yeah, I like it. It's good to go. But I'm going to change it up a bit. And so in experimenting with this setup, the first thing that I do is with the perspective selected, zoom in on this just so we can see it. With the perspective selected, I'll go ahead and turn Bella render on in the viewport. Okay, so that way we get feedback, immediate. Well, I wouldn't say immediate feedback, but we get feedback as we move things around. Okay, so I'm going to go over to environments, and the one that I kind of liked in my experimenting was high contrast 01. And so I'm going to hit apply, and that will immediately change our render. Now, that's putting a shape in the enamel, which I don't like, okay? And this is a bit dark up here now. It's dark over here as well. Champions isn't too bad, but it's reflecting the ground plane, so it has help getting lit, okay? So in playing around with this, I left the exposure at 1, or the intensity, and then I'm just going to kind of drive this around, and you can see now this does, well, for a second there it didn't have any modeling in it or any lighting. Let's go back just a little bit. And there we have some there. As it turns out, somewhere in there, what I liked was about 103. And so we have a nice highlight on the gold here and a nice highlight here. We've got some light on state. It's a little dark still. Champions is looking real nice and shiny, and we've got good reflection here, but it's a bit dark here still. So the problem is that as you slide things around, you'll get sections that you like quite a bit, and then you'll get one section here where perhaps it's too dark. And that's just the nature of these environments. You have to have light and dark in the environment, or it won't look shiny. If you have just light, well, then the diamonds get real, they get kind of like what I call looking like frozen spit, okay? And you don't get any play on the reflections that make it look polished. So having said that, what I tend to do is if I walk this in here with these settings, and then I have places that I want to make brighter, I'll introduce a physical light. And I don't like to do that a whole bunch because it's kind of time consuming. But if you have a render setup that you use over and over again, those lights can be part of the setup, and that really helps. So as you can see here, we've got different play in the diamonds. Some of the tables are reflecting, which I like, makes them look shiny. there's not as much gray in here. There is enough to show that there's contrast in the stones. And let's do a full render of this real quick. Okay, so here is this render, and I like the diamonds a lot more. They have good contrast, but they're, to me, a lot more lively. Like I said, some good highlights around the gold trim here. And this is a bit dark. This is a bit dark. This looks really good. So let's take a look at adding some lights. And it looks like there's a fair amount of what also makes this look good is there's a fair amount of filleting going on in the model. This bezel here is filleted. It looks like some of the letters are filleted. You can see like this highlight right here and so on. But I can't tell if all of them are or they're just not receiving highlights. But I have a trick for that we can do as well. And it's not going in and showing you how to fillet every edge. That is a trick, but I don't know if it's one that doesn't always work in Rhino. Fillets can be finicky fillets. All right. So there are different kind of light objects that you can load in Rhino. At some point, we have some space here. I don't know if it'll be right here, but I do have some icons made to load lights from within our interface, and we just haven't been able to add them yet, but you can add them manually right now. So I'll show you the different commands for different light objects. I really kind of only use 2 of them anyway. So in Rhino, as you probably know, you can type part of a word of a command, and Rhino will autofill the commands that have that word in it. So there's sunlight, point light, linear light. This Viz and V-Ray are from V-Ray, which I actually don't really run anymore. There's directional light, rectangular light. Let's see, where's spotlight? Well, like I said, Rhino doesn't always. Did I pass it up? Well, no matter. The 2 that I use most often are spotlight. Okay, so there's that. And the other one that I use quite a bit is rectangular light. All right, so there you go. So for this video right now, I'm going to use a rectangular light. I really like those because they're easy to control, and they're easy to control. That's the biggest reason. So I just went ahead and drew a rectangle right here. And when you draw a rectangle light, I'll go ahead and put this on the sketch layer since it's white. I'll make it a light. And then you'll notice that there's an arrow. This is the direction of the light. So the light is shining this way. So if we want to use this to light the ring, we need to turn it this way so that the light is going like so. And as we move this light is eventually going to show up in front of the camera. Now, one thing that I like to do when I'm using rectangular lights is I like to click on the circle here and say align to object. That way the the gumball stays in the center of the light and it stays oriented to the light, okay? And so as we turn this and aim it right at the object, okay, you can start to see. Now, another thing that I do is I'm going to come over here to, and I'm in the, if you don't have this window open, then you can press the F3 button on your keyboard, and that will bring up the properties. You can also type the word properties, which is fine, but F3 is what we have that mapped to. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to tell the light to not be visible to the camera. Okay, that way if the light gets between the camera and the object, it could block the image. Okay, and we don't want to see the light, we just want to benefit from what it's doing. Okay, the other thing that I like to do is to get a handle on where the light is really shining. It's harder to tell when it's white, okay? So I'll come over and I'll make it some obnoxious color, okay? So that you can really tell what's going on. And I'll leave it fairly bright, which the intensity of 3 and the multiplier of 1 is fairly bright. Let's go ahead and move this out of the way here a bit. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and grab the light, and as we move it, you can see where it's shining. And so I'm going to work in a different viewport, and I'm going to come over here and over here. And a lot of the times, well, you know, there you go. You need to get the light perpendicular. So here's us, here's the surface, here's the light. You want to get it perpendicular to your sight line, okay? So if you wanted to light the front of a ring, you wouldn't put the light facing right at it. You'd put it kind of down here facing up, and that would be perpendicular to that surface. And so now you can see that we have lit up state here. So I'm going to switch this from obnoxious green, and I'm going to make it white again. Okay, and so now we have some brightness here. And it's actually not too bad brightness wise. I mean, you can really crank this thing up. Let's see, we're at 0.3. Let's there you can really see, and it all depends on what look you want, you know. So I don't know, maybe 0.5 or something. And I can also come over here and make it wider and move it over some, and that way I'll get all of this lit. Okay, so I don't know, that might be it's making the top of this almost white, which I don't try to do most of the time. So let's take this down to like 0.6 or something. So there we go. We've got that kind of lit up here. Now, what I used to do, and what I'm always tempted to do, is, well, I need another light for over here. So you could very easily grab this light and hit copy and paste and move that light over and light it. I don't recommend doing that, because then they both have the same attributes. So if you want to change the intensity of one, it's going to change the intensity of the other. Okay, so that would act like one light, even though it's coming from two different places. So having said that, I'm going to type, let me move this out of the way here. I'm going to type rectangular light again, and I'm going to make a light over here in this viewport. So first click, second click, and then we move out this way. And then let's check, I'll put it on the same layer. Let's check and see where that one is pointing. Come over here. Okay, so we'll rotate that around, maybe just somewhere about here. And I'm going to go to rotate here. Let's see where that wants to be. Okay, there you can see the light in this right here. Okay, and so again, I'm going to come over here and go to properties and say visible to camera is off. So now we won't see that light. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger this way, and I'm going to move it over this way. There we go. And there we go. That's a double. Here we go. So you can see that as I move this over and let up. There, it's dark still on this H. So I'm just going to hit undo because I had that in a pretty good spot. And there I have my H all lit up. And so that's all very even. Okay. And I don't see this really hurting the gems, but if it is, well, it might be washing these out a little bit. So what you can do as well is, let me bring this back. Okay, and for each light, I'll pick this one. You can also say visible in refractions. Okay, so this one right here, it says when disabled, objects will not be visible. Oh, that's objects. Let's see. Visible in reflections. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, and then this is objects will not be visible to indirect light rays. I don't think that applies. So let's go ahead and do that for that light and do that for that light. And I am now going to hit pause and render the. Okay, so here's that render done. Now, when you start to introduce physical lights, it will affect the render time. There's more calculations, more bounces, more everything going on. I think we still have good contrast in the diamonds, and our H is lit up. Still has a reflection, which to me tells it the eye that it's shiny. State is more lit, and we still have a decent shadow, and looks like it goes pretty much to white all around, which a lot of people are looking for, is for it to all fall off to white. So that, to me, is a pretty good render. I don't know. It depends on what you consider the way things look. The last thing, well, I think before the end of the video, I'll show you a spotlight, and there's one setting that I want to show you with spotlight that has to do with shadows. The next trick, though, or thing that I want to show is about filleting these edges. Okay, and this is kind of way down in the depths of Bella, if you will. But I think in a future update, I would like to see us have a checkbox where you can have this be a setting that's on or off. So let's take a look at that. If we select, I'm going to switch out of this render mode so that when I start to work here. Okay, so we've got on the ring rail, we've got some of the gold objects. Let's go to materials and let's come over here and here. And okay, so this 18 yellow, you can see that if I click on this, this shows that that's been applied. It turns yellow. Okay, so you can actually right click on this material and say select objects, and you can see all the objects that have this on it. Okay, this particular 18 karat yellow has one object that has that color, but I want to use this one, so I'm going to assign this to those objects. So now this one is not assigned to anything. And this one is a different material. This one is, let's select objects. I'm not going to worry about that because we can't see them anyway. They're on the inside of the ring. Okay, so this is the material that I want to work on, okay, because it's the one that's applied to all these. And I have this view saved, so let's take a look. Yeah, there's not any filleting on. Well, shoot, there's not any. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, I thought so. This one is filleted in places, and so is this one. Not so up here. This one is. That's why it looks so good. You know, it's nice. Reflections and so on. So let's go over to name views and get back. All right. So this is the material right here that we're looking at. And under this material, it's a Bella Quick, yada, yada, yada. Its type is metal. There's its color and so on. Okay. Under common, we can add a bevel. Okay. Some render engines call it edge softening or this or that. In Bella, it's called a bevel. So you select that node, and I got to check a setting, and oh, there we go. If I click off it, there's Bella Bevel. So you click that and say, OK. So now I'm in the Bella Bevel settings, and I can tell you that this is way too big. Okay. So I'm going to go down to a radius of somewhere in the 0.25 or so range. Or no, wait, let me think. That might even be too big. I'm going to go 1.25. Okay. And then the number of samples is how many times the Bella looks and computes that. And I can tell you that if you go, oh, well, if 4 is good, then 12 must be awesome, your render time is going to be awesome too. So you got to be real careful how high you slide this. 4 or 5 typically is fine. If it's a little too soft for what you think, you can increase the amount of samples, but your time will go up. Our time's going to go up anyway by adding this. And then the interaction is either self or any. And what that means is if you have two, let's say you have 2 boxes that are stuck together, but they're not unioned or anything. Self is just going to soften or fillet the edges of each box individually. If you do any, then that's any interaction, and it will bevel the edges where the 2 boxes meet as well. So typically I roll with that on any just in case I need that. Okay, so Um, there's where we are. Let me backtrack. Up here, this is what are called breadcrumbs in programming or in interfaces, where this is the breadcrumb to get back to the main um, screen. So what we've done is we expanded common, we found the bevel section, and we clicked on um, select node, just like this one says, select node, and then it'll take you straight to Bella Bevel. That's really the only option. And so if you decide you don't want this down the road, you just click the red X and it won't do Bella Bevel. Or if you want to try it without it, slide these down to nothing and render, and then come back and slide them up if you want to compare. That beats having to add it again. Okay. Whew. That's how I spent my summer vacation. I got to get some new material. I think I say that in almost every video. But I'm going to go ahead and render this, and we'll take a look-see at what our edge softening looks like. And I'm back. That was a 2-minute 9-second render on my computer. So not horrible, because we're really tweaking. I mean, we're going for a beauty render here, I guess. But if we zoom in, you can see a lot of there's a lot of filleting going on. You know, you can see that every edge has some light reflections. You can see it on the H here, on the A quite a bit. It looks like even this edge is rounded. These straight edges here, you can see some difference. And then depending on how it is, this is where you might want to decide, do I want edge softening on or not? Because you know, at a normal zoom rate, I think this looks fine. It doesn't appear soft to me at all. You know, is it a little soft? Yeah, maybe. Depending on how it looks. You could take it into Photoshop or something and smack it with 1 degree of sharpening and take care of that. Or you can turn off denoiser and see what you get. So I'll leave this window here, okay? And then I'll come over to here and turn off denoise. And we might want to take the target noise down to like down to 6 then. The closer we are to 1, the more noise it's going to alleviate. Okay, but again, it's time. So I myself would rather denoise this thing. Well, maybe as a good test, we should just, well, if you turn off denoiser, then here's what we really want to look at. This nice, super soft shadow and everything, it has no noise in it, okay? So where you see, you know, broad, flat colors, that's where the denoiser really shines. It gets pardon the pun. That's where it gets rid of noise. Okay, so let's leave this one. Let's turn denoise off, but let's leave the setting the same. Okay, at 10, and let's hit render, and I'll be back. Okay, and back again. Basically the same render time. For some reason, that one was 6 seconds slower, even though I didn't change anything other than turning off denoise, which happens right at the end, by the way. So now if we zoom in down here, there is the noise. There's noise here, noise here. I don't like it. Can't really see it up in here. But And to me, at this zoom level, it doesn't look, it doesn't look that much sharper. I mean, maybe a little bit in the diamonds. Let's see. Let's zoom in here, and then let's come over here and zoom in there. One more. Yeah, not worth the noise. But okay, so we know what denoise looks like. Here's no denoise. I guess the last thing I'll try is I'll leave denoise off, but I'll give it more time to render the noise out, okay, it's going to raise the render time higher than I would want it, but let's see what we get. So let's click render and I'll be back. Okay, I am back. Man, I should have went to dinner. 7 minutes and 50 seconds. And there's less noise, but there's still noise. So I can't justify that kind of time when it just isn't that different from. Here's the one with all the noise. So there's noise. Here is still noise. Less noise, way more time. I think that we have explored all that I am willing to do. So to circle back to me, 10, denoise on, away we go. Okay, so we've covered the bevel or edge softening, how to place lights, what settings to set with those as far as hiding from the camera and so on. And so let's go ahead and I want to show a spotlight, okay? And I just want to show how the spotlight works. I'm not necessarily shooting for like this awesome render, but let's see what we get. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just put these, I'll hide these. When you hide a layer, it does not affect the render, okay? That's, so if a layer is turned off, then the lights do not affect the render. So that's a good thing to know if you want to hide them and try a render and then turn them back on. Okay. So I'm going to type the word spotlight and let me click in the command line here, spotlight. And the base of the cone is going to go about here. I'm going to have this light come from kind of behind. So here's the circle that is the spotlight. We're going to change that anyway. Okay. And then, so I'm going to click about here. And then this is the direction that I want the light to come from. And if I click right here, it'll make a spotlight, okay? But if you'll notice in this viewport, all right, it will make it so that it's flat, just pointing as a circle. So in Rhino, you can before I click this, you can hold down the control button, okay? And then when I click here in the top view, I can then come over to this view, and this is called elevator mode. And so now I'm holding down control. I clicked here, but then I can elevate that point in this viewport. So that's how you can draw these spotlights kind of in the place that you want them. But it's not a huge deal. Let's make this some other bright layer. We'll go gem 3. Okay, so if you want to change where the light is and so on, well, you can press F10 or you can click on control points on. Okay, so I'm going to hit F10 and there it lights up the different parts of the spotlight. So this is where it's coming from, where it's pointing, okay? And let's go ahead. And my phone rang. Thought I had that turned off. Anyway, so this is the direction where that is coming from. I'm going to go ahead and hide. I'm going to hit escape to turn off the control points, and I'm going to go ahead and hide this ring so that we can talk about this this light and what it does. Okay, and so what's that? Oh, a leader. Get rid of that. Okay, so I'm also going to change the intensity. I'm just going to darken the scene a bit. You could darken it quite a bit if you want really dramatic lighting. Well, let's take it down to 0.5. I'll probably bring it back up for the render, but let's go ahead and hit render. And there is the spotlight. Now, the way spotlights work, okay, that was a 5-second render. I like that time. The closer together, I'm going to hit F10 again. The closer together that this is the light hotspot, okay, and this is the light fall off, okay. The closer those are together, the sharper the focus of the light is. So this is like a stage light, okay, to where it's really sharp. And so if we go ahead and pull this way out, now there's other things that control this, but it's a softer cone, but it's still pretty well defined. We could have it less defined if we make this smaller. But there's another setting that I want to do anyway. I'll leave this like so, and also how far away this is as well. But I'm coming from behind the ring, and I'm going to take this back up to about 0.8. Okay, and let's put this back about there. I want it coming at this angle, the same angle as the ring is what I'm shooting for. Okay, and then let's take a look at what the settings are for this light. So if I bring, again, if you don't have this up, you can hit F3. Visible to camera is not a big deal. You could turn that off or on. The spotlights don't show. There's nothing to see. I'm going to make the intensity about 0.2. This is a bit bright. So usually I make this around 0.1 or 0.2, and then I take the multiplier down to around 0.5 or 0.6. Okay. But let's go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to go ahead and render this, and we'll see what we get. Okay, so that render's done. Spotlights, another reason I use rectangle lights is they seem to have less overhead. This spotlight was a 4-minute 41-second render, and it's real interesting. It gets up to, in about 3 minutes, it gets up to about 90%, and then the last 10% just seems to go on forever with spotlights. So it depends, though. I mean, with all these diamonds and with the edge softening on, we have a lot of things going on here. So it does I can tell you this, it's a lot less time if you're not watching it, because I'm sitting here doing the video and I really don't have anything else to do till it comes back. But okay, so there's a setting. The shadow for me, if this is the look you want, then great. The shadow for me though is far too sharp to be a shadow. And so there is a setting, and let's go ahead and close that. And I'm going to hit escape here. We'll select the light and bring this back. And it's the radius. And so you really don't know that this has to do with the shadow, but this is the fall off is constant of the shadow, okay? The output is absolute. And the setting here you have to play around with. Your first inkling is to slide it up, a little bit and see what happens. Well, I can tell you that this is radically too far, okay, because we're working in millimeters here, and so we need if we go to, let's say, 0.2 even, all right. Now I'm going to go ahead and start the render. I probably won't let it finish because we don't need to see what's going on. But now, as you can see, at 0.2, the shadow is basically gone. So is the edge between the light. Okay, so that affects not only it affects the radius of the light and the difference between the cone, the hot spot, and the fall off. Okay. But 0.2 is too coarse, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and close that render. And through a little bit of experimentation, and this is the setting that I typically use, we want 0.025, give or take, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to enter that. And then I'll go ahead and hit render. And I'm gonna let this one finish here. So I'll be back. All right, so here is this render, and the shadow could maybe be softer. So it would need to be a bigger number. Instead of 0.025, maybe 0.06 or 0.07 would get this even softer. And it would also make this line softer, but that doesn't bother me. So yeah, so there is a spotlight, and it casts a shadow. You can have some fun with spotlights. Let me get a render here. So here's a render of a bracelet. And I put a shadow a spotlight really low. So the cone was almost parallel with the ground. And that does a couple things. Number one, physical lights like a spotlight or a rectangular light, when you have a bump map like this leather, it really brings out the bump map, so you get a very defined surface. And then you can see that I took the radius down to where the shadows were soft, and so it made these dramatic shadows coming off here that were soft. And here's another render with a similar bump map leatherette type thing, and the light here is low. You can see the cone coming out this way, and then we get this nice dramatic shadow, and I just made sure that it was soft as well with that setting. And then here's another, you can kind of see it's dark here. This is one of the rock textures that comes in Jewel Beetle, and so you can see the circle of the light was here, and so the top of the ring is lit really well, and then that made for this shadow, and it also the spotlight helps this gem refract, and you get the reflection of the gem in the rock and in the ring because the light's coming from over this way, and that's why the shadow is being cast this way. So, and again, this made the rock really pronounced. That physical light really helped with the bump map of the rock. So that is different ways you can render, and you can obviously combine them. If this dark spot in the H was a problem, I could put a rectangular light here and do the spotlight back there to do the shadow, and yada yada yada. But the times, the spotlight, by the time I was done, this was only a 2-minute and 5-second render, so not too bad. And again, you could lower the where's the setting? Let me get rid of this. I could lower this down, the intensity. It would make the whole ring darker aside from what was happening with the spotlight, but it would kind of take its toll on the diamonds. You wouldn't have as good of diamonds any longer. So, all right, there's some render stuff.